Okay. Some of you have had me before. For the rest of you who have not, Dr. Lippman. You can call me Dr. Lippman or Mike or Yo Fatty. I don't really care. I'm not a formal person. For those of you who bumped into me around the department, that doesn't give you latitude to call the other guys by whatever, but I don't care. All right. My teaching style is a little bit different than some of the other guys. I get off topic pretty often and tell jokes and stuff like that, and I don't know. I think my classes tend to be fun. We get a lot of stuff, knowledge put in there, but hopefully there's some level of entertainment as well. So hopefully that's a good thing for some of you. I mean, Dr. Locklear can be pretty dry, right? Oh, he's right there. I start every class that way.
Okay. Do we need to sit in or anything? I can sit in the front. Is that working, Dr. Lippman?
Yep, we got it.
All right.
Oh, and Josh's laptop's on the couch in my office.
Okay.
The door's unlocked if you just want to get it.
All right.
So-
Don't say that.
Nobody's gonna steal stuff. Have you seen this? Have you seen the size of me? I seem petite, but in real life, I'm quite large.
Yes. Watch where you sit. All right. Carry on.
All right, so let's take a peek at the syllabus here, and then I want to go over some homework instructions and our first assignment, and then we'll dive in. So everybody is here for CSC200 programming stuff, right? Computer programming?
Is that the technical term? Programming stuff?
Yeah, programming stuff. Is that what you think you're here for, everybody? All right. Oh, that doesn't have the right date on it, but whatever. So you can read through this crap. This is up on Blackboard. I just unlocked the class, so it should be up there right now if you hadn't seen it before. So read through some of this junk, blah, blah, blah. This guy right here is my cell phone number. Feel free to text it. I mean, you can call it, but I probably won't answer. I mean, I basically only answer for my wife or my mom. So it's nothing against you, but feel free to text me if you want. Best way to reach me is probably text or email. Really anytime. So, a lot of professors want you to come to their office hours and stuff. I don't care. I'd rather you text me at 8 o'clock at night when you're in the middle of doing your homework, and I can help you in 30 seconds, and then I don't have to listen to your excuse the next day, like, oh, we couldn't figure it out, blah, blah, blah. So take advantage of that. First couple times you text me, I might ask you who this is, so I can put you in my contacts and what class you're in, so I kind of know how to respond, and what level of profanity I should use. Normal crap for classes. We do have a book for the class. I'll show it to you here in a second. It's an online subscription thing through something called Zybooks. I started using it last semester. It's pretty slick. It allows you to kind of do a lot of interactive stuff. So the book has less just tons of reading, and it's more like concise reading with then like kind of interactive quiz project-y type things that, I don't know, seem to work pretty well. Historically, I didn't really even use books, so the fact that I'm requiring the book means that it must be decent. Let's see. I do record all of my lectures. You see this thing is up here. I mean, so I'm not going to give you a 100% promise that every lecture will get recorded, but I think last semester 100% of them did. Generally, 100% of them will get recorded, but every now and then you might have a hiccup in technology. I upload them to YouTube. On campus, we're supposed to use something called Panopto, but it sucks, so I don't use it. So I upload to YouTube. There'll be a link on Blackboard with the playlist or whatever for the YouTube channel. Make sure you click on all the advertisements in there. So I think there are ads, but just ignore them. But in any case, the lectures will be up there if you need to go and review stuff. I'll also make I create a PowerPoint Keynote presentation. I'll share this, so you'll have access to that as well. I'll put a link to that up on Blackboard, so you always have access to that, and that thing just grows as the class goes. So every semester, this class might take some different twists and turns depending on what topics might come up. Let's see. Conclusion at the end of this course. One thing I want you to all appreciate is that all programming languages are pretty much the same. My research area is computer programming language theory. I teach all of our programming classes. At some point, you'll have probably our hardest class, which is CSC470, Programming Language Theory, with me. In that class, we write a computer programming language. And one thing I want you to appreciate is it doesn't matter what the language is. It's the same concept that you'll apply to all of those languages. Programming is programming. That's the skill. So that's what we're going to be learning in here. We're going to be using Python as our example language in here. In the next course, the next two courses, we use Java. Specifically, we do that through Android programming. I'm actually an iPhone user, so I prefer iPhone programming. The reason I use Android is because not all of you have Macs, and if you want to write software for the iPhone, you have to have a Mac or a Hackintosh, which is buggy at best, let's say. So, you know, with the Android development tools, they work on Linux, they work on Windows, they work on Mac, so that's why we choose that, and there's nothing wrong with Android. It's a perfectly legitimate system. Let's see. Another thing I want to come across here is that computer programming is not computer science. One misconception, actually, let's how many of you in here are CS traditional majors? Actual CS majors. How many of you are IT majors? Okay, so one common misconception is that IT means no programming. That is not the case. Okay, programming is required for both IT and computer science. If you're an IT major, you don't have to take CSC200, the third programming course. I strongly encourage all of you to take CSC200, the third programming course. There really isn't a difference in the amount of programming that's required between the two industries. What I say is that computer science is about 75% creation, 25% using what's been created. IT is the flip side of the same coin. It's about 25% creation, 75% using what's been created. So that means 25% of the time in IT, you're going to be writing software. And in fact, in most of the cases, the programming that you do in IT is more complex programming, because you're not sitting here with nice WYSIWYG tools and, you know, for dragging, buttons onto Android interfaces and stuff like that. Instead, you're remoted into a switch that's buried under the floor somewhere, and you're writing software from some command line text editor to either update user accounts or all sorts of different stuff. But in many ways, the programming you're going to do on a daily basis as an IT professional is more complex than I'm going to create an interface and this button does this stuff. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind as you go through our curriculum here. One thing that I see from some of our juniors and seniors is they want to jump ship between majors because they think, I can't handle the programming. Programming eventually becomes fun. I promise you. But at first, you're going to hate it, many of you. This is hard. And it's not hard because programming is too difficult. It's hard because our minds are not designed to be computer programmers. Our minds are designed to be humans. So problem solving with other humans. I'm going to kind of get into some good examples with that here in a few minutes. So just kind of, put a pin in that for a second. But I promise you, you'll be frustrated with programming, at least for most of you. Expect it. I expect you to suck at it for a while. All right. So, but I also expect you to work hard at it. Computer programming is not one of those things you can just cram the night before the test and expect to come in and do well. You're going to have to spend a lot of time working on the homework assignments in order to get competence, because most of the time you're going to be writing stuff that doesn't work, and you're going to be learning from the stuff that doesn't work. That makes sense? With that in mind, just since I'm on that subject, let me come over here to this guy. So this is on the Blackboard page. under the content folder is going to be where all of our assignments are. There's this thing called homework submission instructions. All of you should read this again anyways. But as I've pointed out here, sometimes you might spend 5 or 6 hours on your homework and literally have nothing to show for it. Like nothing works. Well, wouldn't it suck if you spent 5 or 6 hours on homework and got a 0 or got a 10% because you couldn't get it working? Okay, I'm not here just to give you crappy grades. I want you to learn, and I've been doing this for a few minutes. This is my 18th year teaching, and I've taught computer programming the whole time. There's a process to it. It's kind of like a sport, computer programming. You know, any of you play soccer or golf or tennis? Any golfers in here? Golfer. Okay, so are you a decent golfer? Not decent. Okay, we needed somebody who's good at sport. You know, any good soccer players? What sport? Tennis. Okay, I used to be a Division I tennis player, and I broke my back and got fat. It sucked. All right, so do you play tennis on the team here? Okay, so good tennis player. Okay. Now, what age were you when you first started playing tennis?
12.
Okay, were you good day one? No, my brother and I think we started when we were like 4 or 5. My dad was a professional tennis player, so as soon as we were able to hold a racket, we started playing. And tennis for us was trying to hit the ball over the fence. But first we had to be able to hit the ball. So when you started, you sucked, right? You know, you had to learn all the different techniques for the grip and back. You have a two-handed backhand probably? Okay, so, you know, you had to learn all these different techniques, but it took practice to eventually get good at it, right? You know, get out there on the ball machine, hit 1,000 balls, and you eventually started getting some confidence. Programming is just like that. It's like a sport. You don't just start off day one. So on day one, whoever was teaching you how to play tennis, they probably showed you, here's the grip and here's how to hit a forehand, right? And you could academically understand it. You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And they make it look easy, right? They hit a couple of forehand, I'm a lefty. So they hit a couple of forehands. Oh, I could do that. And then you start whiffing a couple of them and shanking them off the frame, whatever it is. Even though you academically understand stuff, you can academically understand a for loop or an if statement, this stuff in programming, until you've practiced it a bunch and screwed it up a bunch, you're gonna suck at it. Okay, so really view what you're gonna be doing in here through the lens of it's like a sport. You're gonna have to put the time into the homework. You're gonna have to expect that you're gonna suck at it, but you're gonna have to expect the progress as well. So as you started practicing tennis, you started getting better. And better and better. And then you probably had a couple of years in there where you like didn't improve as much as you wanted to and like, oh, I worked so hard at it. Or you got worse. Do you ever have one of those? Where like one year you got worse than you were the previous year, but it was like part of the process of getting better? See, I'm an avid golfer now, and that always sucks in golf. When you want to try to hit the ball farther, you change your stance and stuff, and all of a sudden you're like 5 strokes worse than you used to be. But you're hitting the ball farther, you just don't know where it's going. So, in any case, really view computer programming through that lens. Now, with that in mind, whenever you submit a homework assignment in here, you're not just going to submit the assignment, you're also going to submit this little self-evaluation. All right? So, this is your chance to tell me about your experience in doing that homework assignment. This is every bit as important as the assignment itself. With this guy, you get to tell me how long did you spend on the assignment. Okay, this is where I get to find out that you spent 5 hours and you have 3 lines of code that doesn't work. All right. I want to know what you think you deserve based on the effort you put into the assignment. That doesn't mean I'm going to give that to you, but I want to know what you think you deserve. Then I want to know what you think you deserve based on what you actually submitted. And early on, for many of you, as long as you're putting in the work, you're going to say, look, I worked really hard on this homework. I deserve an A based on my effort. I deserve an F- based on what I gave you. Okay, but I put legitimate effort into this. And then I want to know, write a paragraph or something that tells me about what went wrong. What did you try? You know, tell me about your experience in doing that assignment. I'm going to be able to read through that, and between seeing how much effort you actually put in, okay, your own assessment based on your effort, as well as what you actually did. You know, your process here, I'll be able to take that in conjunction with what you actually submitted and give you a reasonable grade. So even if you gave me something that doesn't even work, you might get a C or a B on the assignment just because you showed me that you approached it reasonably. Okay? So, well, this is required, first of all. So if you don't do this, even if you did 100% on the homework, if you didn't do this, I'm going to give you a 0 because I think it's funny. All right?
That's not funny.
No, it's funny because this takes 5 minutes to do, so just do this. All right? So it says right up here, you must be used for every homework assignment, and it even tells you I'll give you a 0.
What if you never struggle?
Then just say, no problems. Effort, sometimes I'll get things like this that say, how much time did you spend in the assignment? 20 minutes. Based on your effort. Well, I put no effort into it. C. Based on what you turned in. A+. Didn't have any problems. That's 100% on the homework. You did fine. You're telling me that the homework wasn't hard for you. That's okay. I mean, the homework's not supposed to be hard for everybody. That's something else you're going to see, and this kind of goes back to me telling you this is kind of like a sport. If you pick up a sport and you're playing, if all of us in here started taking tennis lessons, some of us are going to pick up on tennis more quickly than others, and some of us are going to struggle. Some of us are going to get very good more quickly. If we fast forward 3 years, some of the people that were way behind the better players here might catch up and even surpass the better players later on. So people learn at different rates. So this is me trying to gather how you as an individual are learning this stuff as opposed to putting you up against some sort of standard that everybody else is fitting in the class. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is to your benefit. All right, if the homework was easy for you and you aced it, take 2 seconds, fill this thing out real quick and say, look, it was easy. That way I have it. I won't dock you points for not submitting it, and you'll get your A in your homework. Okay? So this is mostly for when you struggle, but make it a habit to always submit it, because I do want to see it, and it's not a hard rule to follow. All right? Questions on that? All right, let's go back here. Let's see. This is kind of the same thing. Computer programming can be fun, but at first it's going to be a little frustrating. So if you play any sports, it's frustrating when you suck at it. I get run into the same thing with first-person shooters. First-person shooter video games for me are fun for about 5 minutes until I realize how much better everybody else is at it than me. Except usually I have to have my teammates come and kill me. That way I get new ammo. Because I'm not even good enough to go and pick up the guns. You have to run over the guns to get it. I can't even line up with the gun. It's terrible. It sucks getting old. I used to be really good at Mario. Like legit. All right. And this is all stupid crap. So we'll just go through that. So you can read through that if you want, but whatever. Grading breakdown is somewhere down here. Homework assignments are going to be 40% of your grade. Okay, so you don't want to get zeros for stupid reasons like not turning in the self-evaluation. Work hard on your homework, and I promise you'll do well in the class. I give a lot of A's and B's. I give some F's as well. So if you work hard, you'll do well in the class. And I promise you'll get better at the stuff. And if I don't think you got what it takes, I'll tell you. I've been teaching this for a few minutes, so I have a pretty good feel for whether or not your mind works the right way or it doesn't. Most of the time, I think you're better at it than you think you are. All right? Because I've seen how people basically are completely incompetent in the first couple of classes and then become great programmers. It's part of the process. All right? So I guess chin up, try to keep a positive attitude. We will have pop quizzes in here, 20% of your final grade. I am supposed to take attendance every day. I don't care. They can yell at me if they want. The days you get attendance taken are the days I give pop quizzes. So, hey, you're adults. If you have something better to do than show up to class, it's fine. But you might miss a quiz. And quizzes you don't get to do over and that kind of crap. So quizzes are 20% of your final grade. Sometimes I'll announce a quiz. Most of the time it'll be a pop quiz. But, a lot of times like before the end of the previous class, I said, read some stuff. There might be a quiz next class. So, and then 50% of the time I might give a quiz the next class. And sometimes it's because I forgot that when I don't give it, but whatever. But you will have quizzes, small 5-minute quizzes at the beginning of some classes. Those are 20% of your grade, so be prepared. Midterm and a final, so each worth 20% of your grade. Midterm will be around week 8. Final will be around, we'll be on final exam week. I have a policy that if you, because the exams are cumulative, let's say you come in and you get a 20% on the midterm, which happens, since people are learning at different rates. Obviously on the midterm, I can't take in like this partial credit stuff for, your effort and things like that. Everybody's stuck in a room for an hour to take this test. If you come in and do poorly in the midterm and you do better on the final, I'll replace your midterm exam grade with your final exam grade. So a 20 and an 80 becomes an 80 and an 80. That make sense? I won't go the other way around though. You can't come in and get 100 on the midterm, get a 0 in the final and expect 2 100s. Okay, so the final is your chance to redeem your midterm, not the other way around. You can't just ride the midterm through the end. All right, because I don't believe that one bad day should screw you over for the semester. 2 could. If you bomb both of those exams, then you're in trouble. But if nothing else, the midterm should give you an idea on where you stand relative to the rest of the class, so you can kind of self-evaluate as, am I putting in enough effort in my homework, that kind of stuff. Make sense? All right, so that sound fair to everybody? Blah, blah, blah. And then it's the normal 90, 80, 70 scale. I think 93 and above is an A, 90, 91, 92 is an A minus. That scale. The top 2 and bottom 2% are the minuses and the pluses. All right, questions about the syllabus. You guys can read that in all of its glory if you would like on the website. Okay. Questions about the self-evaluation that should be submitted with every single homework assignment. Okay. Let's go back here to content. All right. So let's talk about your first homework assignment for beginning. Now, this would be an example of a homework assignment where the self-evaluation is completely useless, but get into the practice of submitting it, so just go ahead and submit it. All right, so in here I use a tool, and we actually used it in the department. We use a tool called Slack. Have any of you used Slack before? Okay, it's kind of a chat, group chat type thing. So there's native applications for Mac, Windows, Linux, and then on your smartphones as well. You can also do it through a web page. So on Slack, we have a whole bunch of channels for each of our classes. The one you're going to be interested in here is CSC200. You can also send me private messages. So for instance, here's a message from one of our students I haven't read yet, so I won't bring it up in case there's something important or private in there. But you're going to be joining a public channel, CSC200. And in here is where I will put all of our announcements for the class. So if for some reason class is canceled, or if there is a homework, a change in the homework assignment, or somebody brought to my attention that there's a struggle people are having with homework, I can put a message on here. I want you to also collaborate. All right, so if you have a question about homework, post it in here. I'll get a push notification about it. So if I'm the first one to get to it, I'll respond. Otherwise, your classmates can help. Okay, I encourage you to work on your programming assignments in groups. Okay, some of you are, you like to do things alone, and that's fine. Okay, but I'm telling you, programming is going to be difficult for some of you. Get with 2 or 3 people, work on it as a group. I want you to submit individual assignments, but I'm not going to sit there and try to look for cheating. Okay, I'll find out on the midterm whether you're learning stuff. Okay, the point of homework is to learn, not to not use the 3 lines of code from your neighbor. Now, having said that, you're only hurting yourself. If you go out to Google and you find a program that meets the requirements for your assignment, and you just copy and paste it, you'll get your credit. I'm not going to sit there and spend time searching Google looking for a matching program. I got golf and stuff to do. All right, I'm just gonna screw you over in the midterm because you're not going to know anything. All right, so you're only hurting yourself. I'm not going to waste my time searching for cheaters because I don't care. You're paying a lot of money for this education. You might as well get out of it what you'll get out of it what you put into it. So if you want to cheat, then that's fine. If you somehow squeak through the program, you'll just get fired in business. When you go into the industry. All right, so so put the effort in now, get good at this stuff, and then go make good money doing computer science stuff. Another thing we do in the department is we do a lot of programming competitions, and those are open to all skill levels. So sometimes we travel for them. We also have, we're going to start doing one here on campus. We did our first one last semester. We've traveled to Chicago, we've traveled to New York, we traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina for these things. And doesn't matter whether you're a first year computer programming student or a senior. What I do is I break, usually the programming competitions have 4 people on a team. So I usually put 2 more experienced people with 2 beginners on a team, so you learn something from it. You know, we're not exactly putting together teams that are going to win, but you learn a lot in a long weekend or something like that. So those are opportunities that will pop up as well. Some of them are also close. There's something that happens like every other month, I think, that is it's called Hack Milwaukee. We go down and we do a hackathon in downtown Milwaukee. It's like a 8-hour event. They give you breakfast and lunch. It's free, and we go down to that, and that's a fun experience as well. Then we also have several students who get into writing apps for the various app stores, whether it's iOS or Android. We have several students that are making very good money while they're students writing software. So maybe that gives you a little bit of motivation to try to get good at this stuff, because I think we had a student last year make something like $30,000 or something like that as a student writing software on their own time. So, you know, that's maybe not your dream income, but for many of you, that's probably significantly more than you're making today. So something to think about, that there is a reason beyond just a grade to put some effort into this stuff. So for your homework assignment, you're going to go to website cuwcs.slack.com, this guy right here, and you'll create an account on there. That page can be a little bit confusing when you first go there.
Are all our assignments going to come from Slack?
Huh?
Are all these assignments?
All your assignments will be on Blackboard. Yeah, Slack's just a communication thing. Like, you know, you can ask questions about the assignment on Slack, or I might respond to you on Slack, or if I'm sick the night, you know, if I'm not going to be able to come to class someday because I'm sick, I'll announce it on Slack the night before. So make sure you turn on your push notifications for the group. But the course will all be in Blackboard, like all your courses should be, right? Yeah, so it'll be normal Blackboard stuff. Slack is just an additional way to communicate, not just with me, but also with your fellow students, because everybody in here will be in that CSC200 channel after this assignment. So if you have a homework assignment and you ask a question inside of CSC200, everybody in this room will see that question. Okay? Feel free to post your code. You know, like I said, don't worry about cheating. I'm not going to sit there and flag you. So, you know, this looks pretty similar. I don't care. It's all about learning. As long as my job at the end of the semester is to give you a grade based on how well you've mastered the material, regardless of the path it took you to get there. All right? So just don't shortchange yourself by cheating on everything. If you're going to copy off somebody, that's okay, but copy by asking questions, understanding why why this works. Like, okay, I couldn't have written that myself, but you know, I kind of get what it means, and over time, you know, you'll start getting better at it. So when you first come to the cuwcs.slack.com page, it wants you to just log in. So this is the site if you want to do Slack on the web. What you want to do is you want to come down to create an account. All right, so this is where you'll put in your cuw.edu email address, click create an account. I think it sends you an email to confirm who you are, that kind of jazz. That will ultimately create your account and get you logged in. Okay, then you can either do Slack through the web, or you can download one of the native applications. So I use the native application on my Mac and on my iPhone. So what you'll do then is you'll just come in here and you'll double click on CSC200 and you'll see something like this. So who was this? Somebody in here did this already. That's you. So you'll see this, all right, and I'll see that somebody joined this, and then so now he's in that channel. Now one thing you will want to do though is up here, I think it's in settings for this channel, notification preferences. You can choose desktop and mobile notification. So for me, I have activity of any kind put in here. That way, when somebody asks a question or whatever, I get notified. So that might be a little bit chatty. But for classes you're in, I'd recommend you do that. If you stay in some of these channels after you've been in the class, you might want to tone it down a little bit so you're not getting push notifications every 3 minutes from the 20 different channels. But I would encourage you to turn on notifications so that you aren't surprised. You're working really hard on an assignment that I've made an update to because as people were struggling with it, and I said, here, this will fix one of your problems, and you don't see it because you didn't get the notification. Okay? So in any case, set the preferences, whatever. Once you join that channel, which you do just by double clicking on it, what I want everybody in here to do for their first assignment is after you join the channel, put in your name, where you're from, and some interesting fact about you. So for instance, she might say she's a tennis player or something like that. Be something stupid, just, if you do that a little stupid, like everybody, stand up and say your name, where you're from. We're not going to do that in class. You do that on here instead. Okay? Everybody gets introduced to each other or something like that. I would encourage you to pick a username that is at least similar to your real name. That way I kind of know I can correspond it to when somebody's asking a question. I can go and look something up. You don't have to, but just know that might mean it's harder for me to pull information about you or something like that if you're asking a question. All right, questions about Slack? So this should be a free 100% for everybody in this homework assignment. Okay, make sure you do the self-evaluation and say, I spent 2 minutes on it, no problems, AA, and submit it. So you get used to that whole pasting the thing in there. All right, it's good practice. Questions about the homework assignment? All right, so we'll be using Slack for communication in here and asking questions. And like I said, I do encourage you to create study groups. What some students have done in the past is they'll also create private, let's see where the private channel is. Oh, anything that has a little lock on it is a private channel. So some students have, here for instance, here's the CSC200 homework group. So there was a group of 4 or 5 students from last semester that created a little private channel where they could have chat going back and forth in there if they didn't always meet in person but kind of worked on homework together as well. You can feel free to do that if you want to get with 2 or 3 people and create a private channel. That's fine. Just know that I'm the administrator of Slack, so I can get into any of the channels. So if you're going to say a joke, make sure it's funny. Is what I'm. All right. So, but I do encourage you to actually get together in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 people and work on your homework assignments together in person. That's been beneficial for many students in the past. For the stronger students, it benefits you because when you can teach something, you get better at it yourself. For the weaker students, sometimes it's easier for you to hear about something from a peer than when I teach it to you. Okay, you come in, I'm going to show you the assignments, you're going to spend 10 hours on it, I'm going to solve it in 10 minutes. And it's going to look easy, and I'm going to try to explain it the way I think it'll make sense to you, but sometimes it'll go over your head. Sometimes, it won't make sense to you, and sometimes hearing it from a peer is beneficial. Okay? So take advantage of that, and don't worry about getting caught cheating because I'll find out in your exams. And that's 40% of your grade in your exams, so class is going to be a struggle if you bomb the exams regardless of how well you did on the homework. All right, questions on Slack. All right, so let's look at the textbook. In the syllabus, I gave you instructions for the text. So if you scroll down here to required text, it says sign up at zybooks.com. You'll enter your code here, CUWCS, 200 Littman Spring 2017, and then you'll click subscribe. I think the book's like $60 or something like that. It's good, and we're going to be using it. So you're going to have reading assignments every class, but the reading assignments I'll just show it to you. So here is what the book will ultimately look like. All right. So here's our introduction to Python is the first chapter. So here's programming introduction. I'm going to be giving my own version of these lectures. So we're going to start that today. We won't have tons of time, but we'll at least get the ball rolling. Right? But when you read through here, so for instance, you're going to read a little blurb here, but then you're going to go and do a little puzzle. Okay, so it's an interactive thing, and it ends up working out very well than just reading boring stuff. All right, so they have you run the program, see what it does, and you can kind of look back and forth between these things. Then here's some like questions. So, they're talking about, creating algorithms. If you're making lemonade, you fill the jug up with water, then you add lemon juice, then you do something, then you stir. What's that something? Well, you're going to probably add sugar. So we'll click add sugar. That's the last ingredient. So that's the steps for creating lemonade. You certainly wouldn't stir before you added the sugar, right? So the order of the steps is fairly important. So that's how the book works. I will be able to tell, as for each of you as individuals, the progress you're making in the book. I'm not going to go through here and grade these things, so don't worry about getting these right or wrong the first time around. It's about learning. So take your time, do it. You mess up, read the response back, that kind of stuff. Sometimes I will give homework assignments from the ends of these chapters. There are some assignments in the chapters as well, but most of my programming assignments will be separate from this. But I'll be able to correlate between your performance on the assignments and the exams with how well you've been keeping up with the book. So I'll know whether or not you've been actually going through and doing these exercises in the book, giving yourself the best chance of learning the stuff, or if you've just been ignoring the book. I don't care. Either way, I get paid either way, okay? But I'd rather you learn. It's part of the experience, okay? So if you don't plan on doing this, don't blow the money on the book, because why waste $60? All right? But you should get the book, and you should do this. It'll benefit you. All right, questions on the book? When you access it through any website. It actually works okay on mobile if you wanted to read it like kind of on the go or something. Not great, but doable. You can read it enough on the book. All right. Any questions about the course that maybe I didn't talk about before we kind of jump into some content? Okay, so tell me, based on your assumptions coming into this course, what is programming?
Basically a recipe to help with computers.
Okay, a recipe to, so a recipe to help a computer do what?
So computer do certain actions.
Okay, so we're really trying to solve a problem, right? Now, and recipe is good. I like to keep it even simpler than that. I like to say programming is a human telling a computer what to do. That's it. That's what we're trying to do. It's our means to tell this guy to do stuff. All right? But what he said is absolutely correct. We ultimately need to do this through step-by-step recipes, through these things called algorithms, and that's what becomes difficult for us. And I'll explain that here in a minute. All right, so now we accomplish this through something called a programming language. Okay, now, what's our perception of what a programming language is? Code, okay. Code, what does code look like?
It's kind of like basic language with lots of spaces and different characters.
Symbols-y, okay. Curly braces and parentheses, and semicolons, that kind of crap, right? Okay. Now, how many of you in here speak more than English? Speak more than one natural language? A couple of people in here, okay. Now, those are natural languages, right? Now, when you're talking to your friends, so who speaks another language? A couple of people in the back row there. All right, so when you're speaking to, so what language? I know we have Chinese there. Both of you are Chinese? Okay, so when you guys are talking to each other, are you thinking about things any differently than if you were talking to me in English? When you're talking to human beings, you're thinking the same thoughts, just different words come out of your mouth, right? Problem solving with humans is the same. You just might be speaking Spanish or Chinese or whatever. So you choose a different natural language for solving the same kind of problem. That is, asking a friend, hey, are you hungry? Do you want to go get something to eat? Okay, you can say that in Chinese, you can say that in English, you can say that in Spanish, you can say that in any natural language. Okay? You're solving the same problem using different words, using different syntax, but it's the same mental problem solving. This is why human beings have trouble with programming. We are awesome problem solvers. Right? We're professional problem solvers. We've lived our entire lives interacting with human beings. So we leave stuff out. Human beings are smart. Human beings can fill in the blanks. If you're having a party at your house tonight, you can say, okay, you make a left on Main Street and you go up, I don't know, 2 or 3 lights, something like that. There'll be a gas station on the left. So turn left there at the gas station, and then my house is the 4th one on the right. There's going to be like a pink Camaro in the driveway. All right? So if you tell that to a human being, they might have to hunt and peck around a little bit, but a human being is probably going to be able to get to your house for the party, right? Computers can't do that. They're dumb. We have to fill in all those little tiny the blanks.
Everything you do everything subconsciously.
Oh, well, we do. Yeah, I mean, human beings do stuff subconsciously, and that's kind of the issue here. We've become so good at problem solving that we've forgotten how we solve problems. So the question I usually ask to kind of prove this point is, you have to be a little careful with this if you have wheelchair folks in the class. But everybody in here can walk? All right, we can all walk. How do you walk?
We just do it with
One
somebody.
foot in front of the other.
1 foot in front of the other. Okay. So if I put 1 foot in the front of the other, I'm walking. That's it.
Pretty much.
How many muscles are involved in walking?
I lost track.
A lot. Okay, we'll round down and say a lot. Now, when you're taking a step, when you're walking, are you thinking about contracting every single one of those individual muscles?
No, you do that subconsciously.
You don't. Most of us don't know the names of half those muscles, let alone communicating with them, right? Okay, we just do it. At some point when we were babies, we decided to stand up. We fell over enough times. We decided, let's figure out how to not fall over. And eventually we started becoming mobile, right? And we're running around. So there's a lot of details. Can we agree that there's tons and tons of details that are involved in walking that we would find pretty much impossible to completely explain to another person?
Yeah.
Even if we got an expert who knew about all those muscles and stuff like that, for any of us, it would be very difficult for us to give literally a recipe to walk with all the little details filled in. It's too complex. The act of walking is far more complex than writing any of these video games with all the explosions and stuff on the screen. Those are trivial compared to something that we take for granted. Okay? How many of you, when you were coming to class today, avoided bumping into any walls or other people? You usually get one smart ass in class. Oh yeah, I bumped into a couple walls. Usually they're either hungover or really, how many of you came to class today, didn't bump into anybody or any walls, and were texting while doing it? That's common now, right? I mean, they're not even looking in front of them. They're sitting there texting, but they're still bobbing and weaving out of people. What do? Just slightly glance up every now and then and find out if somebody's just right in your immediate impact zone? Okay? Walking is so trivial to us. It's not even worth our attention. We just do it. How did you avoid hitting those people as you were walking down the hall?
Off to the left, off to the right.
Well, you just randomly bob and weave and hope they bob and weave and you randomly miss each other? Or are you making discrete decisions based on things that you see? You're using your senses, right? We have all sorts of monitors going on. We have our eyes, we have our ears. So as we're walking down the hall, whether you are aware of it or not, you're asking tons and tons of questions. Am I going to hit somebody? Am I going to hit that wall? Am I going to hit that wall? Am I going to fall over? Am I going too far to the left? Am I going too far to the right? We're asking those questions constantly, even though we're not aware of it, right? We all believe we're asking those questions, but we would drive ourselves insane if we actually heard ourselves asking those questions. But we know we're doing it. Right? And we make little tiny corrections based on what we see, what we hear, what we feel as you're walking down the hall. You're getting senses from your feet as to, am I Am I losing my balance a little bit on my left? Do I need to sway some of my weight to the right? That kind of stuff. We make little tiny adjustments, and we don't even think about it. It's not like you all of a sudden, it's like mission control. Okay, we need to shift 22% of our weight to the right. Okay, we don't do that. It just happens. This is why programming is difficult for human beings.
The human brain is so complex.
We're so good at solving problems, we've forgotten how to articulate how we solve those problems. All the problems we solve in software. So, some of you probably went into computer science because you wanted to write video games or something like that, right? It's probably anybody in here in that boat? You decided video games are cool, I want to write games. Okay, so you look at these games like Battlefield or whatever, some complex looking game with tons of explosions, lots of real-time stuff going on. You got people from all over the world, all in the same, massively shared world, and you're all running around doing stuff. Our presumption would be that that game would be incredibly complex to write. That game is so far beyond any of you right now in terms of your problem-solving ability to be able to do. Where I'm telling you writing that game is trivial compared to walking. Game is simple. It's an example of a very complex computer program. But computer programs in general are simple compared to even the most mediocre tasks that we do on a daily basis. Human beings have become so good at solving problems, we don't even know how we do it anymore. We just do it. So one of the things we need to learn as a computer programmer is how to slow our minds down a little bit. We're not going to be able to go all the way down because then we just drive ourselves insane, right? We can't really get down to that level of firing each individual muscle. At some point as a human, we have to just rely on instinct, right? Rely on our training, if you will. Okay? But we can slow ourselves down a little bit and try to think about some of those individual moves. That's part of the training it's going to take to become a decent programmer. We have to slow ourselves down and be able to articulate those steps, articulate that recipe that he mentioned about solving a problem. Okay? So whenever we have a problem presented in front of us, we're going to have to A, understand the problem, B, come up with a set of instructions, a recipe for solving that problem, and those instructions need to be extremely detailed. Extremely detailed and unambiguous. Can't be taken more than one way. Okay? They have to be completely concrete instructions, and they need to be detailed. This is why our computer programs can only be so complex. We've already covered the fact that as a human being, if we were talking about something as, quote, simple as walking, something that we don't even, he's texting while doing it, that we don't even have a full attention given to, if we have all agreed that we don't have the ability to, with full detail, describe every little bit that's happening with walking, that means we're probably not going to be writing a computer program ever that's as complex as walking. It just doesn't happen. All right? So, our computer programs are still pretty complex. We just have a new appreciation for where our daily problem-solving complexities live compared to the most advanced video game. Okay? So when we talk about programming language, let me just finish with this thought. We're really talking about a tool that is specifically designed to allow a human to tell a computer what to do without the human changing the way they already solve problems too much. It's going to be complex. The programming languages are going to look cryptic, have weird symbols, stuff like that. But they're a lot closer to English. A lot closer to the way we already solve problems than just punching in zeros and ones. Make some sense? All right, so for next class, you're going to do your that first homework assignment. You're going to get your book, and I want you to read 1.1 and 1.2 from the book and do the exercises. There might be a quiz. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, bribes. Hey, it's never too early to start taking bribes.
Yeah, he likes coffee.
All right. I will see everybody on Wednesday.